Hey, it's Tim, and in today's training, I'm going to talk to you about the mental frameworks, the sacrifice, the operating system, what I call tapping into the dark side. I'll explain that in detail to you here. What it took for me to go from being trapped in cycles of 3K a month, 5K a month, here and there, a 10K month, but just so up and down, always in cycles of being broke, always in cycles of I'm close to making it, but I'm not. How I went from that to being a high ticket closer who closed $2 million plus in sales in a very, very short period of time, in between a year and 18 months, give or take. How I did that and how I made hundreds of thousands of dollars and now run a business that's doing $500,000, on pace to do $500,000 this year or more as we continue to grow. And I'm going to break down to you how sales changed my life, but not from this corny perspective of, oh, just get into high ticket sales. Just get into high ticket sales because you'll make 10K a month. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you about the three frameworks that I use, mental frameworks that I used to change my life through high ticket sales, and actually what it took, because I believe that if you can find yourself in your journey in my story, that's why I share it. I'm not going to go into some sob story here. I'm going to give you actual steps, 3 things that I used. If you can find yourself in that, if you can tap into what I call the dark side in that, I believe that you'll change your life. And the reason I share this with you is because up until 2023, I had never ever made any real money. I was a dating coach before. I was running a dating coaching business where I would teach men confidence and teach them communication skills and teach them leadership skills and attraction skills, and that was doing okay. Not well. I was always in this cycle of a 5K month here. 10K was like the craziest number for me. If I could make 10K in a month, I was happy, right? And I lost everything in 2023. Me and my business partner, we split. My business crashed out. It was really, really bad. It was bad. I was wondering where I was going to pay rent from, like for the next month. That's how bad it got. I owed him money. We didn't book a sales call for like 2-3 months of working together. We didn't book one sales call. It was really, really bad. And at the middle of 2023, I was confronted with the decision about who I was going to be. I could either continue to keep doing the same things that I had been doing in the past, which was continue to repeat this cycle of, hey, I'm going to try to make money. I'm going to try to hustle. I'm going to try to make money as a coach, and with my dating coaching business, and just keep doing the same thing. Or I could radically do something different, and I could change my mindset, how I thought. I could change my life and enter high ticket sales, enter remote sales, which changed my life and brought me to who I am today in this place you see now. It's a really, really, really nice apartment in Budapest with a beautiful fucking view, driving a nice car, have freedom to give back to my family, invest back in my family, the people that matter to me. That's what I have now. And I had to change how I operated. So for me to change how I operated, it required me going into a place that I call the dark side. The dark side, it doesn't have a negative, there's no negative association when I say dark side. So some people hear this and think I'm saying something bad. Like the dark side, it's negative. The dark side just means, as I see it, and I'll explain to you how to use your dark side because it's important stuff. The dark side is tapping into the part of you that you're not familiar with, the part of you that goes above and beyond to go into greatness. You have it within you, but you just never explored it because you've been taught not to explore it. That's what my dark side is, the parts of you that are repressed, the parts of you that are almost animalistic in nature when it comes to how you perform, when it comes to how you lock in. So the first thing that I had to change, and the first thing that I needed to adjust, that was me tapping into this dark side, was my operating system, which comes down to identity. Okay, it was the operating system that I used, and this was for a lot of people that are in high ticket sales. I find that they are operating with they're using the wrong operating system. Their identity is not aligned with freedom, and I'll teach that to you. I'll explain what it means. What I had to do, the first step for me was letting go of the identity of hustle. Okay, and this is really important. I had to let go of the identity of I'm someone who just hustles. I'm someone who's okay hustling for a 5K month, or I'm someone who's okay hustling for a 10K month. I had to remove the hustle identity, and instead I shifted my alignment to responsibility, which means, in a very, very large, significant sense, I became an actor. Okay, I became an actor where I was embodying these 2 ideas. One is I have the keys to my future, and this helped me as a high ticket closer, because when I sat on the call, I realized I have the keys to what happens next in my future. I have the keys for how I make money. I have control over my destiny, as it were. And it's not some corny quote like you have control over your destiny, bro. Motivation. I actually had to align with the belief of I have control over my future. I have control over what happens next in my life. But it wasn't just that. The second belief system, the second thing I acted on was I'm responsible for my future through my skill set, right? So the root identity was I take extreme responsibility for what happens in my future. I'm no longer going to coast and just do the same things. And for some of you, that's not taking your skill set seriously, right? That's the coasting. Some of you, it's having a 9-to-5 job where you know that that's not for you and you know that's not the path you want to take. I talk to a wide variety of you on here. You know, some of y'all hit me up in the DMs and we have conversations. And we generally get those two kind of people. So those of you who have 9-to-5s and want something greater, or those of you who are in sales, but you've been coasting, you're not making the money that you know that you deserve to, or you don't deserve shit, but that you could be making and that you truly want to make, right? So I realized that I was responsible for my future through my skill set. I realized that it was through my skill set that I would achieve that future. And what I did was my operating system changed, and this was my dark side. This was me tapping into a level of identity that I had never tapped into before, okay? And this is what changed my life. I saw a very specific future. I saw a vision in my future, and I crafted a future memory around it, okay? And this idea of future memory comes from a specific book, a specific way of thinking from the book Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, and I'll tell you about that. But this idea of future memory, it's tied to how the brain is unable to distinguish between a vividly imagined event and a real one, okay? And this was so fundamentally transformational for my life. If you've been following me for a while, you know that in a lot of my earlier videos, the ones I was making in 2023, I would talk about tapping into my dark side and I would talk about the future memory. I would speak about that. And this was before I was making really, really good money. I would do months of 6 to 8K as a closer, but I hadn't hit those months of, like 10, 15K plus. I hadn't done months where I was making lots of cash. Now, what changed for me in 2023 was I started to create a very, very specific visual of a life that I wanted to lead. And in the book Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz, he talks about this idea that when you vividly and repeatedly imagine a future outcome as if it's already happened, right? So you imagine this outcome not as if, oh, this was something I like to happen, but you do essentially a meditation on the life that I would like to lead, the life that I would like to create for myself. Your subconscious begins to treat it like a memory because your subconscious cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined memory, even though it's not real, versus a real memory, even if it hasn't occurred yet. But what I would do, and this is stuff that I don't teach anymore on this channel because we stick very heavily into high ticket sales and the technique, right? But I want to give you some of this because I think it's going to transform your entire life. Even as a closer, it transforms your life because a lot of closers I see operate without intention. They operate without the right skill set and they don't invest in the right skill set because they don't actually have a visual of who they want to be. The vision is just fucking dead, right? So what happens is I would visualize a lifestyle where I had a big spacious apartment, where I had a luxury vehicle, actually 2 luxury vehicles in this reality that I would visualize. I had a kid and I was investing back into my parents. I was giving back to them in terms of travel. And now many of those things, not the kid, many of those things that were in that future memory have come true. Not on the scale with which I visualized it, that's for sure, because I still have this visual in my head and I'm not fully there yet. I have a lot more, but as an example, last year I gave my sister a massive wedding gift, bought the cake for her wedding, bought the catering, gave her a huge gift for her wedding, and that made me so happy being able to give that to her and being able to invest back in her in that way. Now I drive BMW X6, I fly business class, I fly my parents out to come see me. I spend 2 weeks in Tokyo, flying business to Tokyo, and I'm starting to see these wins and celebrate these wins, and I have half a year runway of living expenses. I'm pretty much taken care of, and I can take care of other people. I can invest back in friends, help people out. But the reason is because I saw this and I visualized it in my head. And now I'm not all the way there yet. There's a lot more that I need to create and a lot more that I'm building. But because I have this visual in my head and because I'm guided by this future memory where I actually see a specific future and I'm embodying the behaviors and actions that it takes to be in that future, aka taking my skill set very, very seriously, which is what brought me to this point where I have some of the top sales reps in the industry investing in me and training with me. The reason I was able to do that is because I had this memory. So my operating system, here's what's interesting, the operating system wasn't just along identity as a concept. It came with action. So to me, I would think, and every day I would wake up with, what would that guy who's got 2 cars sitting in the garage, what would that guy who's sending his kids to a top private school, I still operate with this every day, what would that guy do who's in that position? What does he do? How does he network? How does he invest in training for himself? How does he build his own business? I'll give you a good example of this. Something that really helped me in the sales space was me understanding human behavior and psychology. So I started learning objections, and that helped me make like 6 to 8K a month. I was in a program that was all about objections. Let's call the program, just for hypothetically, let's pretend the program was named the Objection Circle. Okay, so this was the program I was in, and I learned a lot about objections, and it was good. There was a lot of like word tracks and a lot of scripts and a lot of these things. And in the program, I realized that if I really wanted to be the best sales rep that I could be, it wasn't enough for me to just understand a bunch of scripts, because scripting is always going to be limited. If I wanted to make more money with sales, I would have to understand human behavior. So what I started to do is notice and find patterns between the time I had spent as a dating coach, understanding women, but not just women, also my clients that I would coach, understanding how they made decisions and how they handled their own fears, how they made decisions to interact with women, and how women made decisions with dating, which is very similar to how buyers make decisions to buy things, although with women it's significantly harder. Trust me. Trust me on that. I've done both now, and dating is way harder. But so I begin to look at a lot of the patterns in the psychology, and I begin to build my own model out of that for how to actually handle objections, how to lead prospects, how to do things like reframing, how to set frames, and how to set expectations on calls, things like that. And thus I have the protocols model that we have now, protocols, right? And we have this now. So it took me realizing, hey, this man who is at a high level of mastery, who's living the lifestyle that now I am living, and I have way more to go. To be clear, I'm not done. Like, I'm not satisfied. I'm not at 7 figures as an example. I want to make fucking 7 figures. In order for me to be at 7 figures, I have to do more, right? So how would that man think? How would he operate? What would he do? I brought that into my present, and thus it changed my life, right? Because my operating system and the actions that were going or within my operating system were aligned with where I wanted to be in the future. The second piece of this, the second piece of the dark side, and here's where, this is the interesting part. The next 2 points, I believe that I'm going to lose most of you. Not everyone, but some of you will stay. But I believe that many people will get lost here because they I won't say it's intellectual or you're not smart enough, but you won't be able to, and I'm not talking to everyone here, but if you're going to feel resistance to what I'm going to say in a second. Most people think that as they are right now, with very, very little effort in skill or very, very little effort in competence, they believe that their current level is enough to make it just by getting a bunch of free shit. I'm serious. And I'm not saying pay me anything, pay whoever you want, invest in whatever you want, but I'm saying a lot of people, especially I see this in sales, think that because they know how to have a good conversation and because they know how to run a discovery, like everyone says this, I know how to run a discovery. Most people do not know how to run an elite level discovery where if you were on a good offer, you could close at 45+%. Most people do not know how to do this. But again, most people have resistance to what I'm about to say here because of their own ego. And this is the actual second point. And here we go. If you get resistant to this and start to click off now, this is you. This is not for you, right? So the second piece is ego. It was sacrifice. I had to sacrifice my ego. I had to go through a very intense pain period where I became obsessed with process, and I had to realize that I didn't know shit. Every single sales rep that I've trained who's doing 15K plus a month, we just had an interview with Jabari, who's one of our recent top guys on the channel. We have other people who are lining up right now who are going to be featured soon. We got Stavros, we got Henry in the pipeline. We've got like really, really good people that are going to be making really good money. We've got Dawn that are going to be pushing really soon. They're in the pipeline to come on the channel. The sales reps that I've trained, Sati just hit 25K in January, like Charlie, 20K in commissions, Husham will be on the channel soon too. All these guys that I'm working with that are like elite level performers, all of them have been through a period, and some of them are still in this period, where they had to become obsessed with realizing I don't know shit. And I had to go through this period, and I still go through this, not with sales anymore, because I pretty much know everything I need to know when it comes to high ticket, fast, short sales cycle sales, like 1 call, 2 call closes. There's not much more there. I'm still learning, but I'm learning about leadership now. I'm learning more about how to motivate people, how to tap into people's psychology, things like that, organizational things. That's what I'm learning still, and realizing how I know nothing there. But what I realized was, for me, nothing else mattered other than being the best at a certain point, right? So the only thing that I cared about at a certain level, and this is what helped me become great and change my life, is I only cared about being the best. And I had 3 priorities during this time. It was objection handling psychology. It was understanding not just scripting and word tracks, because that's cute. You know, what are you looking for, but what's the one that we all use? Yeah, before I go into why you think about it, do you feel like this actually can help you? You know, we call that buy-in, double buy-in. That's the easy stuff. That's the little kid shit. That's easy. That's super easy. But outside of that, understanding the psychology of how people make decisions, understanding the psychology of how people make change, how people invest in things, that's important, and there's no one really who teaches that the way we do. So I had to learn that myself. I had to actually dive into how people make decisions, how people consciously choose to make change in their lives, and I had to teach myself, literally, using assets that I had gotten from others, but I had to dive into that combined with my prior knowledge. I had to humble myself, role play, pay for coaching and training, and realize I didn't know shit, right? So objection handling psychology. Scripting and positioning was the next one. Not scripting like what's the one word track, but scripting how to actually say specific things. What's the wording that we use and the positioning behind asking certain questions, such as discovery. Another one was tone and frames, how to work on using the right tonality and not just like curious tonality or confused tonality. Not just, well, how would that make you feel? Because I don't really do that anymore. Again, that's actually really easy to do. It's really easy stuff. I'm not gonna say you know who, but that's really easy to do. It's not that hard. That's beginner level shit, straight up. But there's other levels of tonality and other levels of framing, going deep into someone's psyche, a prospect, and getting them to make change. That's like the crazy shit that changes your life and makes you a bunch of money and helps you become a consultant eventually, right? Which is where I made money. Become a consultant, right? Or build a business or build an offer. And as a closer, grow into something even bigger and hit months where you're doing 40, 50K and build a whole team for yourself, right? Those kind of things is what happens when you understand the game at the highest levels. And these were my priorities. It was understanding this, and out of that came protocols. Out of this intense priority of an obsession with mastery and being the best came protocols. Most people, here's what's interesting, most people, because of their own ego, they're not willing to truly sacrifice their own comfort to achieve their desired future. This is a fact. This is not a question. I have data now for across several different offers. My own offer that I've built protocols, and then the offers I was closing on before I even built protocols, and the offers I consulted for as well before I built protocols. I've have so much data on people in this space, prospects who are coming in, who are interested. And I'm not saying it's just you, it's people who come on even on sales calls who are not truly willing to sacrifice their own ego, the comfort of their own ego, to achieve their desired future. An example of this would be time, sacrificing time to actually put in the work, sacrificing comfortable luxuries, right? Whether comfortable luxuries could mean money, sure, or it could just be being in a really, really comfortable spot where you take on no pressure financially. I know when I made that investment into the program that kickstarted me understanding the game of sales, when I did that multiple times, but the last program I was in that really kickstarted my understanding of objection handling, to give them credit, like when I invested in that program, that was my last couple grand that I invested in. I couldn't even come in on the main level program because I couldn't even PIF for the program, pay in full, because I didn't have enough cash for it. So I had to ask the dude, shout out Nick, for a payment plan. I was like, hey, can I just pay a little bit of this and then come in? And he was like, fine, it's lower than what we normally do, but you can come in. Because I needed it, and it literally changed my life. And then I paid the rest of it a couple months later when I had made a bunch of money, right? So that's really important. Like, sacrificing your comfort, sacrificing the luxuries, going into a place of discomfort, which is what I did. And the other one would be focus and routine. A lot of people don't have the level of focus, are not willing to commit to the level of routine and what I call the boring. They're not willing to do that to achieve where they want to be. Most people, like, I straight up promise you, are not willing to do that. Most people say they are, and it sounds cute to say I'm willing to sacrifice, but most people are not. There's a couple guys that we're training right now who are like hyper focused and hyper locked in. I've already given my shout outs for this video. You all know who you are, guys in protocols who are hyper focused, hyper locked in, right? And they are going to absolutely make money. They're going to change the game for themselves. They're going to change their lives, I should say, because they're respecting the game, right? But it's very few people out of the vast collective, the vast majority of people, who are actually ever going to be willing to do this, which is why most people will stay average, which is why most people will get into high ticket sales. They'll do a little bit, get on a little shit offer here and there. They'll do their little group coaching program for $100 a month, you know, some little dojo, whatever you call it. And they'll do that, and then they're going to get bounced out. It's going to happen 110%, right? And I know my energy is a little more forward here, but it's because this is a real message that I want to share with you because this is what changed my life, me thinking this way and aligning with what I'm sharing with you here. So this is a message for a specific group of people who are willing to make change, right? The third piece is, and this is really what I would call the fun part, I think, where it all starts to come together. And this is where you really start to see crazy results. The first two are just like pain, right? It's like your operating system, becoming aware, crafting the right identity. And then we have ego, like sacrificing the ego, sacrificing the comfort. That's not all fun. 100% it's not. But the third piece is weaponization, which is power, where you step into power. So tapping into my dark side and abandoning my ego, right? And working and rebuilding a new operating system based on a future that I saw for myself. It didn't just make me sharper on sales calls. It did not. It rewired how I show up in the world. So I stopped thinking like just a sales rep and I started moving daily like an operator. So although, yes, I was a sales rep, right? And I was a sales rep for give or take a year and change, give or take. And I was a sales rep and made a lot of money in this time. I was a sales rep. But I didn't think just like a sales rep. And there were two moments where I started to weaponize where I was at. I started to weaponize the operating system. I started to weaponize the sacrifices. There's two moments. And the moments weren't like when I made money. That wasn't the moment. The first moment was I started to sell a 20K ticket versus the classic 5 or 7.5K ticket. Because on the dating offer that I was on, there was two programs. There was the 7.5, 5K if you took something out of it. There was that program, you sell for 7.5K. That was an easy sell, right? I could always just sell that, give people a payment plan. But then I started selling the 20K ticket. And that was really interesting. That changed my life. And I got paid more. I remember I made two and a half or something like that, or $2,000 in commissions because I had a 17K PIF when I had just traveled and hung out in Warsaw. That was an amazing time. I went with my buddies to Warsaw, and I was like, hey, I'm not going to close my calendar when I get in Warsaw. We took a train there. We took like a long train. We wanted to see what the train ride was like. And I was like, once we get off the train, I'm going to take calls in the hotel. So I split my time taking calls and hanging out with the boys, going out, having a good time. And when I was in Warsaw, I closed this 17K PIF. Boom, 2K because there was a bonus, like from a 45-minute conversation on my laptop. That was crazy to me. And I already made money in sales. I had already had months where I did 10K plus at that point. But still, it was just understanding, oh, wow, this is actually possible. I can do this. I can create this because I started to weaponize my skill set more by selling a 20K offer at that point. I had abandoned the low-level thinking of, I'm the high-ticket sales rep who wants his little 500 in commission. And instead, I was like, let me play bigger, let me sell bigger. And the second one is I started putting my calls out. And this is what helped me build protocols initially. Because I started putting out value, I started putting out my calls, I started talking about my journey in the sales space, I started talking about the highs and lows that I was experiencing. When I would make my first money, I started sharing that too. Hey, I made 10K this month. Hey, I made more. I started sharing those wins and putting those calls out and sharing my live reps. So people started seeing, oh, this guy's good, he knows what he's talking about. Even my calls right now are still on the channel. I put some of them out still sometimes. You guys can see my previous calls if you scroll back up and just look Tim Ray sales call live, Google that, like you look it up on YouTube, you'll see my live calls, right? I started putting these calls out and me showing myself in the game live changed everything for me. And it wasn't changing everything for me because like the validation and guys liking what I was doing and getting feedback and followers and stuff. That was cool. 100% it was cool. But what it changed for me was I realized, oh, I can create value and scale value. So I've had this skill where I'm starting to master it, and I wasn't at a level of mastery yet at that time, but I was getting there and I was getting really, really damn good. And then I was like, hey, let me see who wants to just learn from this for free. And I built a school community, and then guys started joining, and we started helping people make more money. And now you have protocols at the level it's at now. So I started playing bigger. I started playing the game bigger, and that took me past 10K, then took me to 20K. Now have a business that's doing 40K because I started playing the game bigger and because I started weaponizing what I had created for myself earlier. So I had a bigger impact, and because of that bigger impact, it allowed me to tap into a much larger, much more expanded reality, not just for myself, but also for the people around me and the people whose lives I've been able to change, and I've been able to help people. Some of them you've seen on the channel. Some of them are still in the journey of, making money. And that's what it's all about for me. So the thing I would have for you is, and the little lesson you could take from this is choose the path that you're going to take. I would assume watching this in high ticket sales, you're someone who wants to make money, you want freedom, you're making a bit of money now, you're tapping in, you're starting to see those months, 3K, 4K, 5K, but you can be doing more. You can hit months of 15K, you can do 20K plus, right? The way that I have, the way that my top people are doing. If you want that, if you want to tap into that, you need to pick a path, choose who you're going to be. Are you going to stay complacent, right? Barely respecting your skill set, and as a result, barely respecting your future? Is that going to be you? Or are you going to tap into a better future for yourself and for your family? Because really, it comes down to you and who you choose to be and where you want to be at in the life that you're choosing to create for yourself and choosing to embody for yourself. That's that. There's 2 ways I can help you going forward, and both of them are free. Number one, if you want to learn more about just me and kind of and learn from me and see my calls and get value and dive into my ecosystem more, we have a newsletter. It's down below. It's called the Protocols newsletter, and I post value and training there that I don't share on YouTube. It's just too much. I'm not going to post all my shit on YouTube. So I have a lot of stuff there that honestly is probably worth, not probably, is definitely worth several grand in training. Check that out. It's on the newsletter. And then outside of that, you can book a strategy call, also free, 15 minutes. It's not a sales call, but it's a strategy call with my guy Frank. He's on our team. He's one of our top reps. I've trained him myself. He's been in protocols. He's the killer. And he'll figure out where you need to be. He'll see if we can help you make money. And it'll be 15 minutes. We're not going to pitch you anything. He's just going to figure out if we can help you. And if you feel like we can, if you're aligned with it, if we like who you are and where you're at, and if we feel like we can help, then he'll invite you to book a demo call, which that's a sales call. But outside of that, we don't have anything to sell you here. So check it out. See if we can help. Otherwise, keep going, keep doing what you're doing, or do better than what you're doing. Because if what you're doing is not enough, then don't keep doing what you're doing. Do better, right? And I'll see you on the next one. I'll see you on the next training we'll have. Goodbye. Take care, and let's go make some money.